Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. Okay, now I really appreciate that this is the last session of the day, so we're going to do our very best to make it worthwhile. I know one or two people have got invitations this evening, and that is a bus that's leaving here outside the building at 7:30, so we'll make sure that we are time efficient so that you can get to your evening arrangements. Well, let's get started. My name is John Cull. I'm YBI's mentoring consultant. I've been a mentor for 15 years. I'm going to tell you a little bit of background. It was interesting in a session that we had this afternoon around the new generation of entrepreneurship, and there was a young guy sitting in the audience, and he kind of there he is. I listened to what you said, and I think he said something like, well, what's the point of, you know, some old guy telling me how to run my business? How's he going to help me? And I think he really meant probably in the culture here, and maybe without a big track record of mentors working with entrepreneurs. But we do get this said a lot, and that is in terms of support to young people. And we're talking about non-financial support. Many young people say, let me have the money and let me get on with the business. So why give me a mentor? Why should that be an interference? It's just going to hold me back. So it's really important that we don't just get the message out to mentors in terms of how to do the job well and to train them well and orientate them to work with entrepreneurs. But it's also important that we get the message, that clear message to our entrepreneurs as well. So when they come together to form the mentoring relationship, then they're ready to go on a journey which will take a minimum of 12 months. I'm going to hear from Julia in a moment. Julia is going to say that from Canada, say, well, our journey for entrepreneurs takes mentors and entrepreneurs is 2 years. Okay, so so this session is very much part of a partnership between Boris on my right from Youth Business Russia, Boris Youth Business Russia supported by IBLF, the International Business Leaders Forum. But also on the panel we've got Julia Deans from CYBF, our partners in Canada. We've also got Kendal Neechie, who runs his own, he's an entrepreneur in Canada, and he's got a fantastic story to tell. And finally, on the panel here, we've got Konstantin Fokin, if I've said that correctly, and Konstantin is going to give us perspective from the Moscow government, and also his role in the National Federation of Business Angels. So let me just tell you a little bit about my journey over the 15 years of being a mentor. I think it really started, we have a culture in the United Kingdom that if you've been very lucky in your life, then you should consider a legacy, you should consider giving something back to society, and that was very much my position. You know, as you can probably tell, you know, I'm a pretty old guy now, so I got to this critical point of I won't tell you how old, but a pretty critical point in my business life. I'd been a manager with British Airways. That was my corporate work. I'd owned a hotel. I'd been a consultant for 20 years. And I really felt that it was time to offer something back. So I made a big decision talking to my mentor, who incidentally I'm going to visit next week. So as well as being a mentor, I also have a mentor. And I would wholeheartedly recommend that if you haven't got a mentor, we all need that person in our lives. So I said to him, I want to give something back. I want to work with, I think I want to work in the area of working with young people. And he gave me one of the best bits of advice. He said, John, he said, make sure that you put some boundaries around it. He said, don't go in and just say, I can do this work. Just say what you can offer. And so I decided that I would give 10% of my paid work, so 10% of my consultant's time, to an organisation. And I did that to the Prince's Trust in the UK. It was helping young people aged between 18 and 35. And I wanted to work with young people because I thought, as I was getting older, I was going to get inspiration from the ideas and the passion of young people in business. And I can tell you, having spoken to Kendal earlier, when you listen to this guy, he rekindles, for any of us older people, he rekindles our energy and our passion with what is possible. And that's one of the great joys of being a mentor. Okay, so let me, before I invite the panelists, and they're the important people, they're the ones that are going to be, that you really want to hear from, but I want to give you just a brief outline of mentoring, of how it works in YBI, and then I'm going to get straight into inviting our panelists. I'm going to start with Julia, and then I'm going to move across to Boris. So we've got the Canadian perspective, we're going to get a Russian perspective, then I'm going to move across to Kendal, and he's going to tell you his inspiring story as an entrepreneur and how mentoring has helped him. And then I'm going to move to Konstantin, and Konstantin is also going to say this is how we can support mentoring here in Moscow, and also from Konstantin, your position with Business Angels as well. Is that okay, panel? Right, so let me just say a few words about position mentoring for you. We're going to talk about mentoring, the mentor's role, the responsibilities of being a mentor. I'm going to talk about how to put a successful mentoring system in place. That's the work that I do, working with our 44 countries around the world, helping to put mentoring systems in place so that those mentors working with entrepreneurs can create a real impact. And in a survey that was carried out by my colleague Helen a couple of years ago, where we researched over 1,000 of our entrepreneurs, from that research, 84% said their confidence levels had increased because of the non-financial support that they receive. And a big part of that non-financial support is mentoring. And we know that for young people, that if you can build those confidence levels, then that really helps them to not just get started, but to sustain their businesses and create jobs for others. And I hope, Kendal, you'll say a bit about how confidence can help you to do that. Okay, and then how can mentoring influence in the continuation of helping to improve entrepreneurship? And I'd expect my panelists to talk about that as well. So, YBI, what do we do? Every 60 minutes, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we are starting a program somewhere around the world. So think about this. In 4 days here at the conference, we will have started 100 businesses somewhere around the world. Now, I think that's really impressive. So it will give me one heck of a lift when the conference is finished to think of the impact that we're making. In the last year, we started 10,000 businesses, and adding to the businesses that we're already supporting, we have something like 25,000 volunteers operating with our programs around the world. Now, Professor David Clutterbuck, and I'd recommend that you Google David Clutterbuck. He's probably the world's leading expert in entrepreneurship, in mentoring. He's helped us to build our program. And he reckons that the YBI program, with all of its 44 members, is probably the biggest business mentoring program in the world. So that's significant. Okay, so we're working in the 44 countries. If you add up all the shaded countries, there's not 44. There's new countries. There's Chile, there's Sweden, there's the Netherlands. I was working in Tunisia last week. That's a very exciting proposition for us. So all in all, currently 44 countries. So that's one hell of a spread. How do we work? Well, we work with young people aged between 18 and 35. They have an idea of running a business, but they lack the necessary business skills. They have an idea. They haven't even brought this together in a business plan. So with training, with access to capital, and with mentoring from volunteers, we're able to help those young people, and as a result, we empower them. We don't tell them how to run their business. We always, whenever we're working with mentors, we always remind them, it's not your business, it's the young person's business. And so creating empowerment is important. The successful businesses are job creators, and as a result of that, they build stronger communities. And just back to mentoring, consider this as a fact. 25,000 mentors. Giving 1 hour of their time. If you cost that free support at very low consultancy rates of $40 an hour, that's $1 million of support for every hour that our volunteers are providing. Now, our volunteers will provide 24 hours minimum face-to-face time with their businesses every year in our programs. So that's $24 million of free support from experienced business mentors. Now I think that's truly impressive. And business mentors only join us, and when Julia tells us the story of Canada, the Canadian program, in Julia's program, they have to have 5 years experience either as an entrepreneur or 5 years experience of working as a manager in a commercial organization just to qualify to get to the selection process. So we don't just take everybody to be a business mentor. Young man over here, I hope I'm giving you some good reasons why mentoring can be a great payoff for young entrepreneurs. Sorry? You're sitting next to Lakshmi as well, and by the time we finish, you'll definitely be saying, I want to make sure I get one of these mentors. Okay, so here's a young couple, Jay and Jade. I mentored them 10 years ago. They're a social enterprise, and they now have a business called Out of the Dark. What they do, they rescue old furniture that's been thrown away. They get some old people that understand furniture restoration. They match them with young people who want to learn how to be furniture restorers. They make this wonderful furniture. They sell it to people like us for our apartments, our homes. They recycle that money so they can help more young people. And these are young people who don't have jobs, who don't have skills. It's a social enterprise. It's a fundamentally excellent business model. And again, Google outofthedark.org.uk, I guess, but you'll find Jay and Jade, and again, another inspiring story of entrepreneurs. Now, I mentored them for 2 years. We meet, that was 10 years ago. We still meet now every at least once or twice a year. We sit around the table, we eat together. They now have a child, they now have their own home. They got married, and when they got married, can you imagine how I felt when Jade, who's from Turkey, and Jay is from the Caribbean, when she called me and said, John, my father cannot be present. I would be honored if you would give me away at my wedding. Is that impressive? look, for any woman who says to a man, would you please give me away at my wedding, it is a big honor. So this is, as a mentor, to then have that honor, you know, you can imagine just the impact, not just the business relationship, but also the friendship that it emerged. And that's what, again, what happens in the world of mentoring. Okay. I'm not going to read all through the lists. Mentoring is usually it's one-to-one. It's our mentors meeting for 2 hours a month for a year, minimum of a year. It's a confidential meeting between two people. Confidential, you know, I mean that what's said here in the meeting stays here. It's important that and I'll talk to you about the mentoring manager. It's important that a report is sent to the mentoring manager that organizes the match, because they are remote. They need to know what's going on. They need to have some data. How can they evaluate if they don't have some data? However, that report is with the permission of both parties. It's trusting, it's supportive. It builds the capacity and the skills, particularly at the early stage when the young person is just starting to grow their business and learning insights. It's focused purely on the individual. The individual, the entrepreneur, owns the agenda. It's important when the mentor says, what do you want to talk about today? That the entrepreneur says, well, this is what's on my mind. This is what I want to talk about. I mentioned the partnership, the friendship. It's mutual learning. I get as much of a kick out of working with my young entrepreneurs, and you know, I hope they get something back in return as well. It keeps me young. There's some really important data about longevity. Data in the United States that said for people who volunteer, they live a more enriched, more satisfying, a longer life. Well, I mean, when you get to this age, those are 3 big pluses, and again, I recommend it. So it's a mutual learning experience, but it's all about building self-reliance. So after a year or 2 years, that young person can fly on their own. They do not need the mentor holding their hand. What isn't it? It's definitely not direct sponsorship. It's not selling the business for the entrepreneur. It's not being in partnership with them. Partnership is different. And, you know, that may well happen, but you can't be a mentor if you're a partner. It's a conflict of interest. You're asking lots of intimate things about the entrepreneur, about their personal life, about their business. So you need to give something as well. So it's not about being secretive. It's not about being too task-focused. So, you know, we've got mentors who are accountants, and we said it's not just about teaching finances to your entrepreneurs. You have to be more holistic than that. When an entrepreneur says, my business is suffering, I'm a new father, the baby's keeping me awake at night, it's no good for the mentor to say, that's not in my remit, you need to talk to a counselor. That's not good enough. The mentor should be able to handle that sort of question. And, you know, you cannot, and the entrepreneur is taking the risk. So anybody that's a parent, you know that you cannot protect your children forever. Now, it is an adult-adult relationship, but the same thing applies. You cannot offer protection to entrepreneurs. And also, we learned today that when there are mistakes, when things do go wrong, some of the best learning, some of the best results for entrepreneurs happen when the entrepreneur comes to the mentor and said, I tried this, it didn't work, I'm worried that it's going to result in my business in failure, what can I do? But when you work through that, what comes out of the other side is a stronger entrepreneur, and you learn, hopefully, not to make that same mistake next time. So, the relationship. The relationship is 3 stages. You have to get to know each other at the beginning and form a partnership, have a contract. Then it's about maintaining, exploring the goals. The mentor has to be a good listener. The mentor has to help to use their excellent business skills to help find creative solutions. But that has to come from the mentee. And finally, you do need to exit the relationship, because mentors will say, when I've done my best work, I want to start again with another entrepreneur. So it's important that that's reviewed and the cycle starts again. So, the benefits. Well, hopefully our panel and certainly Kendal will talk about some of the benefits. It's important that the entrepreneur has some clear objectives. Maybe they're not very clear at the beginning, but they should at least, with the help of the organization, start to get their raw idea and be able to put this into a business plan. But a business plan is no guarantee, because the business plan is untested, it's untried, but at least it's the starting point, it's a focus. Mentors provide encouragement and support, particularly when the going gets tough. They help with those creative solutions. And they help to challenge about and expand what is possible. And they're not super people. They won't have all of the answers, but they do have a great network. And through their relationship with the third person, the mentoring manager, they can signpost to other experts. Okay, so this is where they do their signposting. You have to have, this remote relationship of mentor and mentee, you have to have a superb mentoring manager. They have to have great interpersonal skills. They have to support from a distance. They have to support what is the frontline activity, which is mentor and mentee. They have to create case studies. They have to tell the world what is going on at the front line. So the role of the mentoring manager is crucial. They have to recruit the mentors and the mentees. They have to select them. They have to train them. They have to match them. They have to monitor their progress. They have to motivate them. And then they have to evaluate. So that's a big call for the mentoring manager. So I think that I'm going to stop at that point. Let's leave it on that slide there. And Julia, I'm going to have a sip of water. I've probably gone on a bit too long, but tell us about your program in Canada.
Here we go. Well, first of all, thank you so much to our Russian friends for welcoming us to Moscow. It's really wonderful to be here and to meet so many people, new friends here. I am with an organization called the Canadian Youth Business Foundation, and we help young entrepreneurs launch about 800 businesses every year. So we have helped 6,000 young Canadians launch businesses, and we've had over 3,000 volunteer mentors work with us to help our young entrepreneurs. Just to explain what our organization does, a young person like Kendal will have an idea. We will help them get their business plan in order, and then they can apply to us for financing, and we loan money to young entrepreneurs that they repay. We assign them a mentor, and the mentor is somebody who we feel will meet their needs. So if you work with entrepreneurs, you'll know that financial skills are often an area that people need help with. So often we will match somebody with financial management experience with a young entrepreneur. But it could be that they are opening a retail store and selling jeans and t-shirts, and they need somebody who has fashion expertise. So we match them with people who can help with the needs they have the most. We do not give them the money until they've met with their mentor. And before they meet, they have each had training in how to be a mentee and how to be a mentor. And then the young entrepreneur will meet their mentor, and we have designed an orientation program that they do together to understand agree how they will work together. So things like what is the best way to talk to me and reach me? Is it by email? Is it by telephone? What are the most important things you need from me? What do I need from you? So at this point, the young entrepreneur has a business plan, a mentor, and money. And then we also provide additional resources through the internet and through our staff to help the young entrepreneur. The mentor works with the young entrepreneur for 2 years, which you may say is a long time, but what you will also know is that for many young entrepreneurs, the challenges come at about 1.5 years to 2 years. That's when things are going maybe not so well for the young entrepreneurs. So we think the 2 years is an important length of time. If I'm assuming that everyone here has been to McDonald's, the restaurant, and you know that in their hamburgers they have the secret sauce. And for us, our mentors are the secret sauce. And they are the people who make our young entrepreneurs successful. So they're the people who say, you're having trouble, tell me what the trouble is, let's work through it. Have you looked at your business plan? Have you adjusted your ideas? They boost their confidence. They introduce them to their networks. They transfer their skills, financial management, but other skills as well. They are the people that make a huge difference. And we know that it makes our young entrepreneurs more successful. So I mentioned that we loan money to people, and the people who have good mentoring relationships are always the one who can repay the money, because they are the strong young entrepreneurs. So that's our program. Is that a good
That's
background?
Great, yeah. I think what I'd like to do, Julie, I'm going to hear from Boris, and then I'm going to open up to some questions, and then I'm going to come back to Kendal, just so that we don't have you waiting too long to the end to ask questions. So let's hear from Boris. We'll get questions for Julia and for Boris, and then we're going to come back to you, Kendal, and then Konstantin. Is that okay? Yeah. So, Boris, you're going to speak in Russian. And
Yes.
Can I just check, do I need, just by putting this on, will this help? Okay, so Boris, what I want you to do is tell everyone about the program here in Russia. We first joined forces 5 years ago. We created the mentoring toolkit through the help of David Clutterbuck. It was new. We met with Boris and some other of our partners in Eastern Europe. But Boris really got hold of this with his team, translated the materials, adapted the materials, and 5 years on, I'd like Boris to tell the story of what's happening in Youth Business Russia.
Okay, thank you, John. That is why I will speak in Russian, because if I will speak in English, you will hear the same terminology, the same things which my colleagues told, but I thought that it will be really important for at least Russian-speaking audience to hear how it working in Russia in Russian terminology. That is why apologies for those who speak in English. I hope you will hear translation, and translation here is really good. Уважаемые участники Конгресса,
dear participants, I will speak in Russian, and I should like to say to you in advance that if you cannot listen to the translation, please raise your hand, and the organizers will help you. Well, it's good that some of our foreign guests understand Russian by the end of the first day of our work. Извините, пожалуйста, перевод можно сделать с русского на английский? Конечно, есть перевод. Да, у вас перевод идет нормально, нам нужен перевод, конечно. Перевод. Есть ли перевод?
У тебя не включено.
Как не включено? Это у тебя не включено. Да, ты должна выключить.
А я выключила.
У меня включено. Dear colleagues, John has mentioned 5 years, but practically 6 years passed, and I want to share with you the main conclusion that we managed to draw in this period. First of all, mentoring helps entrepreneurs at any stage of their development, not only to the start-uppers. If we talk about the early stage entrepreneurs, it is very important to receive mentoring in a complex. Today, it was said that it's very important to advise the beginners, to provide them with financing, but mentoring should go along hand in hand with other things. So this is a minimum. We can build other things as well. But the experience that we have, which was mentioned by John, we've studied the international experience, we've translated it, we understood that we needed to adapt it to the Russian reality, and we used the Russian word for the mentor, nastavnik. So most of you, you've met this word, you faced this word a number of years ago, or you probably heard it from your parents. And the mentoring, we have a different word. It's not a mentoring. It's when the older and more experienced person shares his experience with the young beginners in this or that profession. And entrepreneur in my country, we don't have a very long experience of entrepreneurship, but entrepreneur is a very important profession in my country. So what I'm talking to you, it didn't come by surprise. In our youth program, I'm responsible for mentoring, and I run seminars. I meet with very experienced mentors and with young entrepreneurs. First of all, we had to prove that entrepreneurship works in Russia, and we've selected Voronezh region as a pilot project, and we managed to prove to the bureaucrats and to the entrepreneurs that this program really works. Now it is simple to say, but at that time, I considered this work as a bicycle. In other countries, entrepreneurship existed, and it meant that in Russia it should exist as well, but it should reflect the specificity. The same goes with the mentoring. After 2 years of work in Voronezh, we were told, yes, probably in the regions it can work, it can operate, but in Moscow it will not be attractive. But we like to be challenged, and we said, okay, if you say it's not attractive, then together with Viktor Sidov, we organized a pilot project. We invited 10 experienced entrepreneurs and 10 beginners, and we've created these 10 pairs with a period of 1 year. One of the mentors was Alexei Komissarev, and after 1 year, we didn't have to prove in Moscow that mentoring should operate and can operate in Moscow. Then it is very important to say, referring to what John has already mentioned, mentoring as a methodology. Fortunately or unfortunately, not everybody is capable to be an entrepreneur. And the same goes to mentoring. Not everybody can be or wishes to be a mentor, and we have to admit it. We cannot say to any successful entrepreneur, if you are successful, you will be a mentor. It is very important to select the right mentors and to select them correctly. And then it is very important to teach the young entrepreneurs how to cooperate with their future mentors. At the same time, we have to teach experienced interpreters. And in the MBA, we have the seminars how to select these pairs. And before we approve these pairs, we provide education. After the education, we have to select the pairs. I would tell you something provocative. Any experienced and successful interpreter who is capable and wishes to be a mentor can be a mentor. He is suitable to be a mentor for a young entrepreneur. but it will be even more effective if this pair is created in such a way that those things, those merits which are lacking with a young entrepreneur, I mean the knowledge, should be reserved by a more experienced mentor. It's not compulsory, but believe our experience, the most successful pairs are those who represent different spheres of business and who didn't know each other before. It's not a consulting for some specific questions. It is working out the strategy of the business. And for those who become mentors, Julia mentioned Canadian experience. In Russia, we've approved and we've admitted and adopted the rule that mentors could be only experienced entrepreneurs, leaders. We do not invite those who work in the corporations, in the consulting companies, those who have not tried on their own skin the experience of being an entrepreneur. From our point of view, they cannot be effective mentors. And it is very important to mention two things, to mention the success, the current success, and to mention the challenges that we've met. First of all, success. I would come from the other side. I think that those successful entrepreneurs who became mentors, they are so much involved, they are so happy that they came to us and they've asked for the second mentee. We have a mentor who has 7 mentees. And this is the volunteer's work. It's not that someone comes to us, he says that I'm prepared to help the next entrepreneur because I see how the first one is successful. But in 2012, during the competition Youth Business, the entrepreneurs from Voronezh, they won the prize among 40 countries. And this prize was for the best ecological project. And the mentor of this particular guy was crying when his mentee received the prize. And I like the fact that when young entrepreneurs started to work with mentors like 5 years ago, in this room, I see those who tomorrow or within 1 year, they are mature now and they will be mentors for the other beginners. In 5-6 years, those who had mentors, they will be mentors themselves. Well, I will mention challenges later.
Thank you, Boris. That's really helpful. And I'm going to offer an opportunity no longer than 10 minutes for Q&A, and then I'm going to get straight into Kendal because I want to hear from Kendal and Konstantin as well. And do we have any of our YBI colleagues from Uganda in the audience? From Uganda? Put your hand up if you're from Uganda. Okay. They're not with us at the moment, but this point about the mentor crying when the mentee received the prize, well, if you want the Ugandan case study, come and ask afterwards, and I'll show you where the link is for that. It's really inspiring how 100 entrepreneurs have been matched with mentors in Uganda in the last 12 months and how it's transformed the lives of those entrepreneurs working in some really, really difficult circumstances. So we've got the case study. Come and let me know if that would be helpful later. Okay, so let me, I did promise the first question would go to SKOLKOVO. SKOLKOVO, it's Mikhail, Khomich, and can I give you the opportunity for the first question to either Julia or to Boris?
Yeah, thank you that much. But I would also prefer to switch to Russian, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
In fact, the situation is as follows. we are creating an association of business association in SKOLKOVO, and it works for maybe 6 months now. And in the course of this discussion, I understood many things, especially when Boris talked. Together with we had a debate with Alexei Komissarev, who could be a mentor and who cannot. And Komissarev was trying to prove to me that only an entrepreneur can be a mentor. We have like 150 mentors, and not all of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are deputy directors of the big plants in Russia, and they have such a vast experience behind them that they also have the right to be mentors. And this is not a question, but it's kind of a disagreement. But the question is as follows. Having a great data bank of mentors, we have like 150 alumni of the universities and teachers of SKOLKOVO. It's a very impressive list. We practically, if we talk about yesterday, we had only 11 successful pairs of mentor and mentee. It's probably 1/15. Well, the figure is growing, but many accuse me that I behave like a dog on a haystack, but I don't want to give to mentors, just not reasonable things, because they will not like to be mentors. What do you think? Where is this balance to behave like a dog on a haystack or to?
One of the things that I like to say is that there's many rivers that lead to the one sea. And so what I'm saying here is that mentors can come in different shapes and sizes. Your point is an interesting one about where your mentors come from. So before I come back to Boris on that point, I'm going to ask Julia for your experience in Canada of where you're selecting your mentors and this controversial point of should you have to have entrepreneurial experience to be a really good mentor?
I think we would probably all agree that if you're an entrepreneur, you want other entrepreneurs around you to help you and advise you. So I agree with that. For a mentor, I don't think that they have to be working exclusively as an entrepreneur. And that sometimes the skills that you need to learn are ones that are not entrepreneurial skills, they're business management skills. And one of my favorite mentors in Canada is the sales manager for a very big telecommunications company, and he is super successful. He was voted the top mentor in his company across Canada. And he is a mentor for a young entrepreneur of ours who created a music therapy school. So he helps children with autism through music. And so you wouldn't see the connection there. The fellow Piero in the telecommunications company is a very entrepreneurial person, but within a big company. But he understands sales, and he understands marketing, and he understands business and how to hire people. So he has helped the young entrepreneur build his business 3 times the size in 2 years. And when you meet Piero in the big company, you would think that all he cares about in life is this young entrepreneur. So the passion and the skills he's bringing to Bill are amazing. So I think that your mentor can come from many places. And for us, some of our best mentors are entrepreneurs who have come through our program. And Kendal's early, 2 years in our program, but we find that 80% of the entrepreneurs we help would like to become mentors because they see how important it is. And those can be wonderful people because the experiences are very recent. But again, the very best mentor could be a 75-year-old accountant who loves the person they're helping. And we are a little less discriminating.
Okay, thank you. Boris, quick response, if I can ask for that. And then I know there's a young lady over here who would like to ask a question. So Boris, making the perfect mentor. You're looking for entrepreneurs. Our colleague here, Mikhail, is saying, well, we need to find entrepreneurs from a wider source. Julia is saying with 20 years experience at CYBF? 17 years experience, you've got that, you've been able to look at who your mentors are and get a really good perspective of the kinds of people that make successful mentors. So Boris, let me give opportunity to you to respond, then I'm going to go over here.
Спасибо. На самом деле вопрос.
Thank you. There were two questions, in fact. As a rule, we think that these people should be owners of their own business, but we make an exception for the managers, for the CEO managers. But our specificity, of course, I should like to repeat that I respect Canadian experience, but if we copy it by 100% in Russia, and if we select the same principle, but our small business is different, if we invite a consultant who is well aware about sales and marketing, but who's never set up his own company, then we will help with the sales, but we will not help with the strategy of developing business. But I should like to answer to the second question. I think that in this room we have our mentors. Pavel is sitting here, who nodded negatively when you were saying that you are sitting like a dog on a haystack, that you don't want to provide mentors with small projects. But it doesn't matter. And even if it is a small entrepreneur, and if it is a small business, and if you attach him to the very big and important mentor, we're not talking about the size of the business. We're talking about the principles. If he decided to start his business, let it be the selection, the choice of your mentor. And if let's try and attach a small entrepreneur with a small business, and you will see how the attitude of a mentor will change. Thank you very much.
Definitely this notion of one size does not fit all. What happens in Canada, Boris's experience, the experience in SKOLKOVO, it really is about learning, understanding, that what happens in one particular environment, in one country, does not necessarily provide a cast iron guarantee it's going to work somewhere else. So, but that's why we're discussing this very important topic today. Can we hear from this young lady, please?
Меня зовут Сирота Илья.
I am Yelena Sirota, and I am a mentor of the Boris program in Rostov region. My consulting company is dealing with the development of youth business. We are helping them to develop business in Rostov region. I agree with Boris that it is necessary to have an experience of the entrepreneurial experience. What our Canadian expert says, it is a consulting. If it is a good accountant, he can provide good services in accounting. But my question is, don't we substitute that mentor and a coach? Maybe it should be a coach, because at the early stage for the start-upper, it is important to be heard, to be listened to, and it is important to have a support. The start-upper should understand that he can open his business. We have a great range of support, but is it possible for our mentors? Probably they could, they could use their experience as a coach.
Points of what kind of person makes a really good mentor at those very early stages of growing the business. So I'm going to come across to Kendal now, because I think it would be useful to hear from Kendal's experiences, not just about his business, but what was the impact of his of a mentor helping him. What was his experience of having a mentor in those early days? So Kendal, tell us about your business, your story, which is very inspiring, and your experience of having a mentor.
Absolutely. First off, thank you for having me here today. My name is Kendal Netmaker. I'm from Canada. And I am the owner and founder of a company called Neechie Gear. It's a lifestyle apparel company that empowers youth through sports. And how it does this is really, I tied in my own personal story with a market need. And the target market that we had originally targeted was the Aboriginal population in Canada. And my own story goes back to my grade 5 in elementary school, where I didn't have equal access to play sports. I never had a vehicle, we didn't have much money, and so on. My friend from South Africa noticed this downfall of these opportunities, and he asked me one day at recess. He says, "Hey Kendal, why aren't you playing soccer with us after school?" And I had to explain to him that I didn't have these opportunities that he had. The next day, he comes to me and he says, "Kendal, I told my parents what you told me, and we want to help you out." And from that day forward, this family paid for my soccer registration fees. They picked me up for games and practices, and so on. This family gave me my first opportunity in life that I can remember. And I didn't realize the impact that this family had on me up until in my early 20s. And I thought, in university, I was studying to become a teacher, and I had this idea, well, how can I impact kids the way that this kid had impacted me? So I thought of this idea where I can create an apparel company that gives back the same way. We can donate a portion of our proceeds to help find these kids who need that help to play sports and empower them that way. So I knew I had a market because Neechie comes from a friend word in the Aboriginal language where I come from. So they already associated with that, and there was no other apparel companies targeted to that audience. So I combined my story with this market, and things just exploded. And how I came with CYBF and finding a mentor was in the time in my business where I took the biggest risk, and I opened up my first retail store. And I approached the Canadian Youth Business Foundation with an application for a $12,000 loan. And after qualifying, I was paired with my first mentor. And the first mentor didn't work out. After our first meeting, we just didn't see eye to eye. He didn't see my vision. I let them know immediately, the Canadian Youth Business Foundation, and immediately they found me another mentor. After my first meeting, I knew this was the guy, and this guy's been helping me ever since. So, you know, it's very important to find the right mentor who's going to support your visions, but also help you in the areas that you're not well at. And for me, it was the finances. I wasn't a numbers person, and my mentor, Dennis, from back home, he's been helping me ever since, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I keep calling you Kendal Neechie, and I'm building the brand. But so thank you for being so kind to me. But it's Kendal Netmaker, and it's Neechie Gear. So it's an absolutely inspiring story. And I also want to ask Kendal about not just building your brand and your business, but you act as a mentor in your community. How do you, as a young guy, how do you do that?
Well, I've been approached various times because I'm one of the first Aboriginal entrepreneurs in Canada that has really seen the success that most people haven't. People immediately know me as a role model, I guess, in the communities. So that I get requested a lot to do motivational speaking and now mentorship. So now I mentor a young female who is starting an online Aboriginal product and services where it's almost like an Aboriginal eBay, where she's selling authentic handmade goods from Canada and so on. So, you know, I'm able to help people now based on everything that I've learned from business plan competitions, pitch competitions, and so on.
And by being an entrepreneur and also being a mentor, how's it helping you in your business? It
obviously, I learn so much each day from everything that I do, and you know, I couldn't be more grateful. I love giving back. I think it's ingrained in my skull that to give back is important, and you know, it fulfills me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'm sure there'll be some questions and we'll get you back responding in a moment. But now I'm going to move across to Konstantin. Konstantin, you'll have a different perspective here. So you've been patiently waiting. So tell us about your experience of business mentoring from the perspective of Moscow government and also your role with the business angels.
Спасибо. Коллеги, get your translation.
I speak Russian. So it was very interesting for me to listen to all our panelists. We here in the city, we've known two things by now. As regards mentorships, or apart from mentorships. So mentorships, it's okay. It's very good. Just, I use very simple words here. But if we choose a tool or an institute, what should it be in place in an ecosystem in a society that to push forward the entrepreneurship. So these would be mentorship and business angelship, let me call this, in comparisons with money, structure, services, and these are. So this is a way to convey experience, motivation, emotions, and this is also a vehicle by which new products emerge. And so mentorship and a pure state is kind of a conveying of such experience. And this angelship is also very close to it, and money is also a secondary aspect here. So we cannot do without this in the entrepreneurship system. So this is thing number one, which we've understood by now very well. So the second point, which we've also understood by now, is that to receive such efficient institute is not a piece of cake. So if we go to in a standard Russian mode, I like it and I buy it, then that would be too easy. So we don't have a magic button here which you push and you have it. So there's an issue of culture, of a relation to your own country, kind of a patriotism, and also of being matured, an adult person in the entrepreneurship community. When you fail your success, when you are responsible and feel it and would like to show it to other people who understand business, when you have the instruments which you can use to transfer, your experience to others, then it switches on. So we understand these two things, and we start experimenting with different tools which influence this ecosystem. This both regards mentorship and angelship. So you can see here my colleagues who were involved in this project. Veronica, she's a young girl who was part of the program. She was on, by the way, on the top of this triangle shown in your slide, John. And we also we had two roles. That was our vision. First, it's to give a support of the information support of PR, just in the dimension of the culture evolution. And here also it could be the role of a role model where successful people would be in front of fresh entrepreneurs. And when they just not say how to do it, but they really do it. So this is a very important component. And unfortunately, the governmental practice here in Russia won't be very fast at that. I think, first of all, these will be businessmen who will implement it. So, but these success stories could be, could be told to fresh entrepreneurs in different ways, through competitions, for example, and so on. And second, tools should emerge certain tools should emerge when people bought an idea, when they understand its value, and when they say, yes, I'll try it. When you have some 150 people like this, and you still need some good services, which would match interpreters and the good matching, and which supplies these young entrepreneurs with appropriate tools and experience. So last year we launched our platform for such matching, but this platform doesn't claim on being unique. So here we want just to sustain different formats, which in the very early stage be of just have a status of being, somehow tied up to certain territories, certain areas and institutes, and not to entrepreneurs. So a good example here with the SKOLKOVO school, which has both constituents, and these instruments also need PR support. And we will start an online resource which would publish some short films, videos, and would provide us kind of a platform for local communities. And also this year we will try to give support to one or to 2 or 3 platforms, a smaller platform, which in some way, some particular way, start to involving other people in this network. Most of them exist in Moscow and some in provincial Russia. So it is very important, and we understand that. And so it's not easy to develop it. It needs time, but we need to give it our effort and impetus from the city. And certainly our federal authorities have it. And third, these are first practical steps to cooperation. So we're open for cooperation. It is done in different locations in the city, different formats, and we are committed to support and sustain such institutes.
Thank you very much for your experience and your background, your thoughts. I think we've got 15 minutes now to open this up for questions. So there's a hand at the back, one hand there, there's another hand there. So if the mics can go to this person, please, and then another person over there. And if you can just address your question to a member of the panel, that would be fantastic.
Спасибо большое за презентацию. Меня зовут Татьяна Бурмистр.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Tatiana Burmistrova. I'm director of the Foundation to Changes in Our Society. One question is to Yulia and other to Boris. We support entrepreneurs, and we also include the system of mentorship. Yulia, first of all, Julia, does your system support different mentors, including social mentors? So, for instance, help to sick kids. So this is a good example of social entrepreneurship. What challenges do you encounter when a big company wants to support social entrepreneurs? And to Boris, what is the greatest difficulty in completing a good pair, a mentor and a mentee?
It is how do we design or help our mentors who are counseling social entrepreneurs? And we don't. Many of our business entrepreneurs have a social side, like Kendal. I think we don't do different training for people helping social entrepreneurs. They tend to be people who appreciate the social purpose of their business. But at the end of the day, the social entrepreneur needs to have business skills and run their business in a business-like way. So the most important training we give to the mentors is to understand the needs of the young entrepreneur and help them with those needs. And they're usually around the business side, not around the social side.
Okay, thank you, Julia. And the question for Boris, I think, was really about pairings. What is it that makes good pairings? I think you were talking about this earlier, Boris.
Да, я думаю, что чтобы долго на этом не останавливаться, безусловно, нужно просто подобрать правильного наставника в данном случае.
We just need to choose an appropriate mentor in a peer, sure, but mentorship is kind of maybe a social responsibility above all. So those entrepreneurs who become mentors, they are already somehow prone to assist people, to help them to understand what they do and that they want to achieve. So that's it.
Just this notion, actually, of and I'm going to come to you next, of social entrepreneurship, or a business in the social sector. As Julia said, it has to have a proper business model. It still incurs costs. There is revenue that needs to be earned. So actually having a mentor that can go through the proper disciplines of running a business, whether you're a commercial business or a social enterprise, the same disciplines are required. Would you agree with that, Julia?
Yes, and I think Kendal might be the one to comment, being a social entrepreneur.
Yep. Okay. So, Kendal, that particular view of as a social entrepreneur creating a sustainable business model, what's your experience?
Well, first off, we had to work to get profitable before we could really be social. But it didn't mean that you can give back during that time. And for us, what I did is I volunteered a lot of my time to create sports teams and coach during my startup phase. And that was very difficult, and it posed a lot of problems, especially when I had to tackle business problems. And one of the things that I noticed right away is that I had to sell, right? That was the key to business, is I had to sell. And then the next step was, okay, well, we started to sell a lot of stuff. And then we became profitable, we started to make some money, and then we started to partner with existing organizations to help find those kids that need the help.
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask you for your question, please.
Да, у меня вопрос, Борис.
I represent an association of entrepreneurs in Samara region, and there are more than 100 successful entrepreneurs in our association. What should we start with?
Or how can we join the program that you are realizing? How can we do? What are the practical measures for us? Just come up to me after this session.
100 entrepreneurs, how can we join a program that's going to help those entrepreneurs become sustainable, become job creators, and become successful both as individuals and their business? So, Boris, your comments?
I think that mentoring has a great future. We have a great number of successful entrepreneurs. And so far, currently, what I'm worried about, my main concern, we are prepared to work and cooperate with any organization who are dealing with mentoring. But my main concern today, I was mentioning challenges. I'm worried about the fact that when something is in fashion, for example, 5 years ago, we were talking about mentoring and everybody was saying that that was nonsense. But now everybody wants to deal with mentoring, and I heard some anecdotal examples. I would not mention any organization, but I heard that, well, we started to deal with mentoring. We found a very successful mentor, and he is a mentor for 30 mentees. And first thing he did, he organized a master class for the 30 mentees. But mentoring is something different when you work individually. An experienced teacher or a manager is attached to a mentee, and they work like a pair. mentor. Other things which were mentioned, like a coaching, like a temporary consultancy, let's call it consultancy, a coaching.
You there, and I think the young lady's got the mic, and can we just have a hand for the, yeah, over the far side of the room. This gentleman at the back of the room after this young lady, okay?
Hello, I'm Tina Tin, Head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Center. So I have such a question. Should mentor be paid, and what is the minimum time commitment they must provide for the
Okay.
for their project?
Right, thank you for your question. So should mentoring be paid, and what is the time commitment? So Julia, I think you're well placed to answer this.
Yes, our mentors are volunteers, so they don't have an economic interest in the young entrepreneur succeeding, and most of our mentors commit for a 2-year relationship. But our mentoring became so popular that people were applying for the loans just to get the mentors. So now we have a program that is mentoring by itself that's for 6 months, which I think is probably the minimum you'd want a mentoring relationship to be, and it's usually for a few hours every month or as much as the two people agree. But John, I think you've had some experience with paid mentors as well, or the idea.
Well, experience of paid mentors. I can absolutely say that in the 15 years that I've been working as a volunteer mentor, then we only work with volunteer mentors. It makes such a difference when people want to give their expertise, their time for free. And once you start putting money on the table for the mentor, it starts to create a different dynamic, a different agenda, a potential conflict of interest. Konstantin may have a view on this. Mikhail may have a view, but certainly from the work we did in South Africa a number of years ago, you know, when they had paid mentors or paid business coaches, they were getting paid with the number of business plans that they were helping to write. So their motivation was to push up the quantity of the business plans. Every business plan had remuneration, and you know, that was the agenda. We don't have that agenda. It's simply people dedicated to give at least 2 hours per month for no pay. And we have people that want to join our organizations. And I think it's because of what you get back is greater than what you give for free. What you get back is far greater. It's it's just the way that is. Let's just hear from Konstantin. And I did promise Mikhail. Boris, and there's a question from our gentleman at the back of the room.
Для нас здесь нет сомнений.
For us, it is not a doubt. Of course, it is a free time which should be spent by people, by volunteers, to bring back, to give back what they've received from their country. I don't see any principal difference with what John has said. It's a different motivation. It's not compatible. Just a few words about this topic. Of course, it should be free. These people will be surprised if they are paid like 2,000 for the meeting with the mentee, but there is a rule, and this rule, the rule of 2.5 meetings. After 2.5 contacts, mentor should think about joining board of directors. we think that after these contacts, it should be not a monetary remuneration, but probably a different remuneration. But when we say the word mentor in Russia, everybody perceives this word in his own way. Even the SKOLKOVO Foundation, and we are the official partner of SKOLKOVO Foundation, we will organize a mentoring session. But we cannot deal anything about this word. We call mentoring the fact that people will come together, but we want the unanimity in using this word.
Okay, interesting point, and I think mainly because clarity and understanding of the relationship of the organization, the mentor and the mentee needs to be absolutely crystal clear at the outset. So as long as it's clear, and I did say earlier that no one size fits all, but clarity, and I know in the Canadian program and I know in the Russian program, that clarity of the mentoring agreement is clear right from the outset, and that's vitally important. Did I hear from you, Boris? We did, because I know we've got a young man, we've got a man at the end.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Я попросил 30 секунд.
Well, I've just asked for the 30-second speech. In Russia, let us use the different word. We use the word nastavnik because the word mentor, it has a different meaning, a different connotation in Russia. And first of all, there are no financial cooperation. There is no financial cooperation. As soon as money, partnership, investments appear on the table, well, we can talk about it, but this is not a mentor. We don't have to use the word mentor.
Yes, can we have your question, please? And then there's another gentleman in front of you. I think when we've taken those questions, we're going to start summing up and bring the evening to a close. The gentleman at the back first, please.
Попробуй задавать свой вопрос по-русски. Я недавно был в Сингапуре.
I will try to ask my question in Russia. I was visited in Singapore, and they have 4 factors of success. First of all, it is the innovation, entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship. What is the relation between these 4 factors of success? Well, I don't want to talk about them individually. And the former Prime Minister of Singapore has studied these 4 factors of success in the United States of America.
Innovation, entrepreneurship, mentorship, and super mentorship. Where are the super mentors here? Bill Gates, Branson. Do you invite them to Russia?
Okay, you said that your president in Singapore?
Yes, the former Prime Minister of Singapore.
Sorry, former
he
Prime
has
Minister.
5 books.
Yeah, okay.
And on one of the books, he wrote The Hard Truth of Singapore's Growth.
Yeah.
And in that book, he showed 4 very important things for entrepreneurship progress: innovation, entrepreneurship, mentorship, and super mentorship. How do you relate these?
Julia. Okay, I'm going to ask Julia here because not only does Julia is the CEO of a substantial and a mentorship program that works. Evidence is that it works, but I guess that you must also have super mentors. Are they visible? Are they different? Is there a super mentor in Canada? Or are all your mentors capable of being super mentors?
Well, I would never disagree with Lee Kuan Yew. That would be very dangerous. I think what he meant by super mentors may be what we were speaking earlier as role models. I don't think Bill Gates mentors too many startup entrepreneurs, but Bill Gates is an icon, a role model for many tech entrepreneurs. So those super mentors maybe are what we might call role models these days.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia. And we also have another name. When we recruit some of the big names in startups in the UK, of course, many people know the name Richard Branson. So he's just started a new organization called Virgin Startup. So he's using his name as ambassador. So, people might say, that guy must be the super mentor. He can't be around mentoring everyone, but at least he can start a business called Startup Direct. And so part of his philosophy is to do that. Okay, one last question from this gentleman, and then we're going to sum up because we've already had the 5-minute final warning.
Ура! Раз. Меня зовут Павел, я как раз...
I am Pavel, and I am dealing with the development of mentoring services in Russia. And I'm interested in I have my question to Julia. How do you build up your relations with the government? Does the government participate in the mentoring programs? And what is the crossroad between the governmental program and your program? Do you have any interrelation with the Canadian government? Oh.
Yeah.
So for our program, half of the money we spend is in loans for young entrepreneurs, and the other half is in programs to support the young entrepreneurs, including mentoring. And for us, our Canadian government and the governments of our provinces also support us and help pay for our costs. So the government helps to pay for our mentoring costs. We don't have too many government officials who are mentors, but they do support our mentoring. One thing they have also done is just to create a national award to recognize the top mentors in Canada. So it is a national mentorship award. So they are saying we understand that mentoring is important, and we will celebrate the very best entrepreneurs. The very best mentors. So I think that's very helpful to us as well.
So I'm going to start with Konstantin, and then Boris, and Juliet. Last word with Kendal before the closing remarks. And so my question to all the panelists, really, having heard different views of mentoring. I did say one size does not fit all. You've heard some varied comments and viewpoints. That's what healthy debate and discussion is about. But if there was one top tip that would promote mentoring and make it a real feature in providing non-financial support, what would that one top tip be? So let me ask you first of all, Konstantin.
It seems to me that if anybody had any doubts about the value of this institution, now, well, these doubts should have disappeared. Am I right, dear colleagues, or not? Do you still have doubts? No, definitely not. And we can go for dinner. It seems to me that from the point of the mentoring point of view, in Russia, we are on the right track. We have like a critical mass of entrepreneurs, and they started to share their experience. We have them like thousands of these people, and this is the very big resource. It's a major resource which should be engaged, and we have to support it together with the community, because we cannot deal without the community. First of all, we have to work on the terms, on the terminology. And I think that we still have to use the word nastavnik in Russia. And we will assemble a board of mentors. We will exchange all the different matters, and we have to push up this topic, and we will be pleased to participate in it.
So Konstantin, pushing up mentoring on the agenda, on the national agenda. Okay, thank you. And
colleagues, 5 years ago, when Dmitry Medvedev started his work as a president of Russia, at that time there was a meeting of the small business entrepreneurs, and there were like maybe 50 or 60 people, and they represented infrastructure of support from the government of Moscow, from public organizations. I was given only 1 or 2 minutes to speak, and I mentioned mentoring at that time, and I said there were lots of successful people, and I told them that if you have a mentee for each of you, the story will be different. And at that time, everybody nodded, and now, well, I think that in Russia, in Moscow, we came to a point when we can work on this program.
To show where it's working, keep it on the agenda. Boris, what's your one tip to ensure that mentoring continues to provide a vital support to entrepreneurs?
Ну, благодаря Константину я могу говорить уже гораздо меньше вещей, а рояль вкус...
Well, I can speak less. We have a very modest investment into this business. During 5 years, we've gained experience, and we managed to publish a manual. We collected all the factors about mentoring, and we collected individual cases. And we've created these pairs, mentor and mentees. But I think what should happen in Russia, mentoring should be popularized, promoted, and we have to deal with the correct mentoring, and we have to cooperate. And in this case, in last year, we organized the first All-Russia Forum on Mentoring. We are prepared to organize the second forum with all the interested parties who want to deal with mentoring in Russia.
We've heard about making sure it's on the agenda. We've heard about the debate so that everyone understands exactly what mentoring is and how it can work in Russia. And you're going to hold a conference on that topic, Boris. So the question, Julia, is once again, how can we make sure that mentoring continues to support young entrepreneurs?
So two pieces of advice. I think our friend is Samara, where you're from, with 100 entrepreneurs. If each one of those entrepreneurs becomes a mentor, that's the sort of momentum that will get this popularized. And then for Boris and organizations that are specializing in mentoring, support those organizations so they can support you, and for them to use resources that are out there. On our website, we call them crash courses. So introductions for how to be a mentee, the young entrepreneur, and how to be a mentor. Those are resources that we share with Boris. He shares his resources with us, but we should share things and not create the same thing over and over and over again.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Julia. And final word then, Kendal.
Sure. The first thing for an entrepreneur is you got to have the guts to seek a mentor. I think that's one of the hardest things, is because we are always alone. And for any mentor who is thinking to become a mentor, just put yourself out there and allow them to come to you, because everyone likes to give advice. People like to give their knowledge, and you can combine those two, and I think good things will happen.
Okay, thank you. And just to bring the gathering to a close, we are the last session of the evening. Thank you very much for your attendance this evening, for your questions, and I think that. Just to say a big thank you to our panelists, and also to Youth Business Russia, together with IBLF, who have organized and made this evening possible. I'd also like to finish by quoting Jonathan Ortman, that in his address this morning, and he said, we should be creating a better world through the endeavors of entrepreneurship. Well, I think if mentors can play a big role in those endeavors of entrepreneurship to build a better world, then we're doing the right thing. Thank you very much indeed.